1, 2, 3. יופי. אז אני סוגר את היוטיוב שלו לפידבק. את הרמקולים אני גם אסגור. מאותה סיבה. אז היי לכולם. עכשיו זה כאילו משמרת ערב של ה-354. אני ניר. היי. אנחנו 354 יום לימים להשמדת כל האנושות ביוזמת אינטיליגנציה מלאכותית. עכשיו אנחנו במשמרת ערב ועושים ביוטיוב. אני הסברתי בפייסבוק שלי שאני כל פעם יעשה, עד עכשיו הייתי עושה גם ביוטיוב וגם בפייסבוק, את אותו דבר. כאילו ב-X-Split הייתי מפצל את השידור ומקליט בו זמנית שיהיה לי גיבוי. עכשיו אני כבר לא אעשה גיבוי, אני עושה רק באחד כל פעם, או ביוטיוב, או בפייסבוק, או ביוטיוב, או בפייסבוק. אני הסברתי יותר לעומק את הסיבה שמה, אז אני אגיד בקיצור פה שאף אחד לא מסתכל במילא, וזה רק נועד שאתם תסתכלו, שיהיה לי הרגשה שמישהו מפקח עליי, כמו בייביסיטר, שמרטף, ולצורך זה לא צריך כאילו את כל הגיבוי הזה ואת כל סליחה, אני לא יכול נגיד להקליט, לא יודע מה, 12 שעות ביום או כמה שאני עובד רצוף. אז אם כאילו אני מקליט 4 שעות, ואחרי זה לא יכול יותר להקליט במשך, אני לא יודע, זה עוד 4 שעות, אז זה מפריע לי, זה דופק לי כל פעם, וגם מוציא אותי מהריכוז, אני בורח לכל מיני דברים אחרים. אז זה מה שהיה עד היום, שהייתי עושה 4 שעות, ביוטיוב ובפייסבוק במקביל, ואז כאילו גם היה תוכן בסרטונים שלי, אז התוכן שאני הייתי עושה, ואז התוכן היה משמעותי, והייתי רוצה שיהיה גיבוי, גם ביוטיוב וגם בפייסבוק. לעומת זאת עכשיו אני רוצה לעשות, אין כבר תוכן, אני רק מדבר עם צ'אט GPT ועם ג'מיני, עם האינטליגנציה המלאכותית, אז כל ילד יכול לשאול את השאלות שאני שואל, אז התוכן עצמו לא משנה שאתם תשגיחו עליי. צריך שיהיה לי הרגשה שמישהו כאילו מסתכל, ואז אני לא אברח לפורנו או לכל מיני שטויות שאני עושה, שאני אוכל לעבוד ברצף. כי מה שקשה בהפרעת קשב זה קשה כאילו לשבת, שיהיה סבלנות ולהתרכז ולשבת. אז אתם עוזרים לי בזה. אז כל פעם אני אקליט ביוטיוב נגיד 4 שעות, ויסיים, ואז אני יפסיק את היוטיוב, יתחיל בפייסבוק 4 שעות, זה המגבלה הטכנית הכי ארוך, ואז כאילו יפסיק, ואז יתחיל הקלטה חדשה ביוטיוב, ופעם זה, פעם זה, פעם זה, פעם זה, לסירוגין. אז כאילו אין כבר משמעות אם ימחקו את זה, יותר משמעות מבחינתי. החלק החשוב לי שזה יהיה כמה שיותר שאני אוכל לעבוד רצוף, ולנסות כאילו להספיק כמה שיותר בזמן הקצר שעומד לרשותנו, שהסברתי למה הזמן קצר, וזהו. אז עשיתי נגיד היום רק בפייסבוק, ואת זה אין לכם כאן ביוטיוב, אבל עכשיו יש קטע ביוטיוב של האמן בפייסבוק, אז כל פעם מי שכן רוצה לראות יכול לראות, או בפלטפורמה מסוימת חצי מכל מה שאני עושה, או שילך גם ליוטיוב וגם לפייסבוק, יראה כאילו את הכל ביחד. יכול לחבר לעצמו, אני לא חושב שמישהו מסתכל, אבל אם מישהו מסתכל, אז הוא יכול למצוא את כל מה שעשיתי או ביוטיוב או בפייסבוק. באחד מהם אתם תמצאו כל דקה ודקה שאני עובד. אוקיי. אז זהו. אז אני ממשיך מאותה נקודה, אני לא מסביר מה עשיתי, כי אני לוקח בחשבון כאילו כבר הסתכלתם כאילו בפייסבוק. למרות זה לא בהכרח נכון, אבל אחרת זה פשוט אני צריך לעשות הכל כפול, ואז זה סתם אידיוטי. אוקיי. אז זהו. אז אני חושב מה לעשות עכשיו. אוקיי, אז אני חושב שהייתי כאילו בקטע של לתקן פה בוורד את מה שהוא כתב, את ש-GPT כתב. לא שזה עוזר למשהו, אבל אולי זה כאילו, לאחרי זה אני רוצה להסביר בעזרת זה או משהו כזה, אז שיהיה לי איזה גרסה כאילו שכתוב בוורד. בסדר, אז אני אשים את וורד ואני אשים את ChatGPT, אחד ליד השני. זה ChatGPT, אבל זה הקטע שהוא כתב לי בלטח, וכאילו עכשיו אני עובר למה שהוא כתב לי בעצמו בשפה הרגילה, באנגלית. ואני אשים ליד זה את וורד, זה לא וורד, אני אשים ליד זה את וורד, אוקיי, אז אנחנו נמשיך כאילו אחרי זה מפה. אני לא יודע למה הוא לא עשה את המספור, ואני... אין לי כוח גם לתקן את המספור. המספור בוורד זה גם סיוט. זה יותר קשה מללמוד לטח. אני אשאיר את זה ככה. Connection to the curve. S שווה 1. S שווה 1. Statement of the conjecture. אוקיי, אם L שווה 1, סליחה, אם L1 לא שווה ל-0, אז הרנק היא 0. בקיצור, the deeper the zero, את S שווה 1. אוקיי, נעתיק את זה, אז שווה 1. higher the rank of the curve, בסדר. why it matters, למה זה משנה? קודם כל בוא נעשה פה שורה רווח, ופה גם שורה רווח. כי אני שומר, שמור, נחזיר את זה הצידה. אוקיי, עכשיו אנחנו ב4, אני אסתובב קצת, אני אעשה פיפי, אני אסיים את המרק ונמשיך. חשבתי תוך כדי שאני אוכל את המרק, אז אני אאסוף קצת את הנושא הזה, ואני אלך לנושא של שהיה לי כאילו הקמת מושבות על מאדים בסדרת מדע בדיוני שאני עושה, אז עם הקמת מושבות על מאדים במנהרות לבה, בצינורות לבה טיובס, אז אם אתם זוכרים עשינו, אז זה גם חלק מהאתר, פשוט זה חלק אחר של האתר, אז אני אקפוץ קצת שיהיה לי מגוון, אז אני אכתוב נוטבוק, אלה, ייכנס דרך ויקיפדיה, וינסה, זה אלה שכבר עשיתי, הוא שם לכל אחד אייקון, בואו נעשה from caveman to cave martian, יש פה את ההיסטוריה, כאילו את מה כן, יש. אז עכשיו אני רוצה כאילו, מה שעשיתי, עשיתי את הפרק הראשון. עכשיו כאילו נעשה את הפרק השלישי, אני חושב. זה איזה פרק שיש הוא טכנולוגיות. בואו נראה. Downloads. הנה, Technologies, חלק 5. פרק 5. אז בואו נעשה את זה. בואו נראה איזה טכנולוגיות יש בגדול. אוקיי, יש הרבה. בואו נשמע. אז נטען את זה. סליחה. יופי. ונעשה customize. ונכתוב please explain chapter 5 technologies and elaborate on each technology as much technical detail as possible. אוקיי, אז נעשה generate, ועוד מעט הוא יכין את זה, ייקח לו כמה דקות, אני בינתיים אוכל. נשים את הקופסה של השקדי מרק בארון מטבח, שלא תישבר. יופי. אז עכשיו אני אעשה שאתם... בעצם אתם יכולים לשמוע, אין בעיה. אבל שלא יהיה לכם פידבק, אז אני אשתיק את עצמי, וישמיע לכם את הפודקאסט. ואותי אני משתיק, אני עושה מיוט, ואחרי זה אני יחזיר.
Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going deep on something pretty sci-fi, you know. Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going deep on something pretty sci-fi, you know, like the tech that could actually let people live in caves on the moon or even Mars.
Yeah.
Wild stuff, right?
It is.
And we're diving into a book. It's called From Caveman to Cave Martian by Manfred Dutch von Ehrenfried. Really gets into how researchers are tackling this, like right now.
Yeah, and it's all about practical stuff, you know, like things that could actually happen pretty soon.
Exactly. Not just like way out there futuristic ideas. We're talking about stuff that honestly could happen in our lifetime.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Super cool. Okay, but before we get too ahead of ourselves, got to talk about the big elephant in the room when it comes to living in space.
Oh, yeah.
Radiation.
Right.
We all know it's dangerous, but just how bad is it really?
Okay, imagine like a constant stream of tiny bullets, some coming from like way outside our solar system,
Oh, wow.
and some in sudden bursts from the sun.
Oh, okay.
That's what we're dealing with galactic cosmic rays and solar particle events. And they can really mess up human DNA big time. Increases the risk of cancer, all sorts of health problems.
So not good.
Not good at all.
Definitely not good. So no lead vests in space, right? Way too heavy to launch.
Yeah, no lead vests.
So what are the brilliant minds out there doing to protect us from this invisible threat?
Nanotechnology. Specifically, hydrogenated boron nitride nanotubes, or BNNTs.
Okay, BNNTs. Got it.
Yeah. Picture something as strong as Kevlar, but way lighter.
Okay.
Now imagine weaving that into, say, a spacesuit.
Oh, wait, a spacesuit made of nanotubes. Sounds like we're in a superhero movie or something.
Kind of right. So boron, one of the elements in BNNTs, it's really good at absorbing neutrons.
Right.
And when radiation hits a spacecraft or even the moon or Mars, it releases these neutrons, and they're the worst for our cells.
Oh, I see.
BNNTs are like tiny shields. They grab those neutrons, and that way less radiation actually reaches us.
So we're talking a light, flexible material that you could wear as a spacesuit, and it blocks radiation.
You got it. It's like wearing a radiation-proof shield, but it's comfortable. You can move in it.
That is incredible.
And it's not just spacesuits. Imagine lining entire habitats with BNNT fabric. You create a safe haven from all that radiation.
Wow. Entire underground cities on Mars shielded by this stuff. That's hard to even imagine.
It's pretty wild, right? And that brings us to the next hurdle, making those underground cities.
Right.
And here's where inflatables come in.
Hold up. Inflatable habitats, like bouncy castles.
Think bigger and way stronger.
Okay.
NASA's been researching inflatable habitats for a long time, actually. Remember TransHab back in the 90s?
Oh, yeah, vaguely. Wasn't that canceled, though?
It was, but the materials research, it led to huge advances.
So what's different now?
The materials. Look at Vectrin, for example.
Drone.
It's a synthetic fiber, 5 times stronger than steel, that weight.
Wow.
And it's already in use up in space.
Right.
The beam module attached to the ISS, made of Vectrin. It's an experimental inflatable habitat.
So it's not some futuristic dream. It's like bouncy castles.
Think bigger and way stronger.
Okay.
NASA's been researching inflatable habitats for a long time, actually. Remember TransHab back in the 90s?
Oh, yeah, vaguely. Wasn't that canceled, though?
It was, but the materials research, it led to huge advances.
So what's different now?
The materials. Look at Vectrin, for example.
Drone.
It's a synthetic fiber, 5 times stronger than steel, that weight.
Wow.
And it's already in use up in space.
Right.
The beam module attached launched to the ISS, made of Vectrin. It's an experimental inflatable habit. habitat.
So it's not some futuristic dream. It's actually happening right now.
No,
It makes you wonder what other uses we could find for this kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
But okay, back to the habitats. How would an inflatable actually work? Like in a cave?
Picture this. You land on Mars and you've got this compact package.
Yeah.
Lightweight. But when it inflates, it expands into a whole living space.
Oh, cool.
You deploy this thing inside a cave, natural protection from the elements, and temperature swings.
So it's like combining natural shelter with super high-tech stuff.
Exactly.
What about customizing it? Could you like change the size or shape to fit different caves?
Oh, totally. That's the beauty of it. Modular, adaptable, connect multiple modules for bigger spaces, or even make specific areas for research, growing food, you name it. It's like building with giant Legos, but in space.
I'm really starting to see how this could work. It's amazing. So we've got radiation-proof suit, an inflatable home. But now the question is, how do we actually get all this stuff into a cave on another planet?
Right.
Not like we can just, call up a moving company.
No moving companies on Mars.
So we're going to need some serious help.
We are. And that's where robots enter the scene.
Robots.
NASA's putting a ton of work into robotic systems, specifically for exploring caves and building habitats.
Okay.
So we're talking robots that can handle the rough terrain, navigate tight spaces in caves, and maybe even help set up those inflatable homes, right?
Like what would those even look like? I'm picturing something small, agile, maybe with like spider legs so it can climb and squeeze through narrow spots.
You're not far off. Some of them are designed with multiple legs and grippers for navigating difficult terrain. Others have sensors to make detailed 3D maps of the caves, so we understand the layout and any potential dangers.
That is so cool, these robots exploring alien worlds, places we can't even reach yet.
Right, and they're not just exploring. They can work too. Imagine them with tools to clear debris, level the ground, even help deploy those inflatables, like a robotic construction crew working 24/7, prepping our new home on Mars.
So these robots are like the pioneers, setting everything up for humans to arrive.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. But here's the thing. How are we going to power all this incredible technology on the moon or Mars? No handy outlets up there.
Right. And solar power alone might not cut it, especially for bigger habitats needing a lot of energy. So NASA's working on kilopower.
Kilopower?
It's a small, portable nuclear reactor.
Hold on, a nuclear reactor in space?
Yes. Designed specifically for use on the moon or Mars.
That sounds a little risky, doesn't it? A nuclear reactor just floating around out there.
I know, it sounds a little scary, but kilopower is designed with safety as the top priority.
Wow.
It's gone through super rigorous testing here on Earth to make sure it can handle space travel and work reliably in those harsh conditions.
So it's like a mini power plant, but for space.
Pretty much, yeah.
How powerful are we talking? What could this thing actually power, like on a lunar or Martian base?
Kilopower can put out with Earth to make sure it can handle space travel and work reliably in those harsh conditions.
So it's like a mini power plant, but for space.
Pretty much, yeah.
How powerful are we talking? What could this thing actually power, like on a lunar or Martian base?
Kilopower can put out up to 10 kilowatts of electrical power. That's enough for several average homes here.
Okay, that's a lot of power.
It could power life support, scientific equipment, communications, even rovers exploring the area. It's a lot packed into a small package. Really shows how far we've come with technology.
It really does. But I gotta ask, what makes this thing safe? A nuclear reactor on another planet. I think a lot of people, myself included, would be a little nervous about that.
Totally understandable. That's why NASA put so much focus on safety. Kilopower uses a uranium-235 reactor core and a heat pipe system to generate electricity. But it's a closed system.
Oh, okay.
The heat from the reactor turns into electricity, but it doesn't release any harmful stuff into the environment.
So no radioactive waste, no emissions like traditional nuclear plants?
Nope. Plus, Kilopower shuts down automatically if there's any malfunction. No meltdowns, no leaks.
Okay, that's a little more reassuring.
Right.
But still, getting a nuclear reactor to another planet and setting it up, that's got to be a super delicate operation.
It is. Needs careful planning, special equipment, highly trained people. But the potential, having reliable power on the moon or Mars for a long time, that's huge. Could change everything about building a sustainable human presence there and making incredible discoveries.
Okay, so we're starting to see the pieces come together. Radiation protection, inflatable homes, robotic helpers, even a portable nuclear reactor. What else do we need to consider?
Well, once we have a base set up, got to think about food.
Right.
Can't just rely on shipments from Earth forever. We're going to have to grow it ourselves.
Martian farms. Sounds like something out of a movie. How would that even work, growing stuff in such a harsh environment?
That's where hydroponics and aeroponics come in. Basically, growing plants without soil.
Oh, wow.
You use nutrient-rich water solutions, controlled environments, enter underground greenhouses lit by LEDs, astronauts growing fresh food, vegetables, grains, you name it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Creating our own little ecosystem on another planet, totally self-sufficient.
Yeah, that's the idea.
But what about, like, the mental side of things? Living in such a small, isolated space, so far from everything.
Right.
Humans are social, we need connections, things to keep our minds active. Wouldn't it be crazy hard to live in a cave on Mars, cut off from everything we know?
It's a huge factor, and researchers are studying it really closely. They do these things called analog missions here on Earth.
Analog mission.
It's like simulating a Martian mission, but here they have people live in a cramped space for months, limited resources, limited contact with the outside world.
Oh, I see. So like a dress rehearsal for life on Mars.
Exactly. And they learn a lot about how isolation and confinement affect people so they can come up with ways to deal with it.
What have they found so far? What helps people stay mentally healthy in those situations?
One big thing is community. Creating a strong sense of community amongst the crew, sharing a purpose, open communication, teamwork. It's all crucial for keeping morale up and keeping the group together. Like a tight-knit family, but in a high-tech Martian cave.
Makes sense. In that kind of challenging environment, having a strong support network would be so important.
Definitely. And it's not just about preventing negative stuff, it's about encouraging positive stuff too.
Oh, interesting.
Researchers are looking at how to design habitats that spark creativity, help people grow personally, and even make them feel a sense of wonder, like they're exploring.
So creating a space where astronauts can actually thrive, not just survive. What kind of ideas are they working on?
Think about adding elements of nature to the habitat. Maybe an indoor garden where astronauts can grow plants, connect with something familiar, or virtual reality experiences that make them feel like they're outside in nature.
I love that, having a little piece of Earth on Mars. And speaking of Earth, the communication delay must be one of the biggest challenges. It could take minutes for a message to go to Earth and back. That must be so frustrating. What can we do about that?
We're working on laser communication. Instead of radio waves, it sends data using light.
Laser communication. That sounds seriously futuristic.
It is. Imagine being able to send video messages from Mars almost in real time. Astronauts could talk to loved ones back home, share what they're seeing, and feel connected to life on Earth.
That would be amazing.
Reality experiences that make them feel like they're outside in nature.
I love that, having a little piece of Earth on Mars. And speaking of Earth, the communication delay must be one of the biggest challenges. It could take minutes for a message to go to Earth and back. That must be so frustrating. What can we do about that?
We're working on laser communication. Instead of radio waves, it sends data using light.
Laser communication. That sounds seriously futuristic.
It is. Imagine being able to send video messages from Mars almost in real time. Astronauts could talk to loved ones back home, share what they're seeing, and feel connected to life on Earth.
That would be amazing. Really help with feeling isolated and homesick.
Exactly. And it's not just personal stuff. Laser communication means sending tons of scientific data back to Earth way faster. We could learn so much more about Mars so much quicker.
This is incredible. We've talked about so much: radiation protection, inflatable habitats, robots, laser communication. It's clear there's a lot of work happening to get ready for humans on the moon and Mars. But with all this focus on tech and innovation, what are the ethical side of things? How do we make sure we're exploring responsibly and not messing things up?
Great question, and it's something scientists and policymakers are always thinking about. One of the big ones is planetary protection, making sure we don't accidentally contaminate other worlds with Earth life.
Right, like bringing along some unwanted hitchhikers.
Yep. NASA has super strict rules for sterilizing spacecraft and equipment before launch to minimize the risk. And we have to be careful about how our activities might affect the Martian environment.
Like we're guests on another planet, we need to be respectful.
Exactly. We need to explore in a way that leaves as small a footprint as possible and preserves these amazing places for the future.
It's a lot to consider. But it's good that we're not just thinking about the technical stuff, but also the ethical side of exploring other worlds.
Absolutely. As we go further out into space, we have to do it with smarts and responsibility, making sure our exploration benefits humanity and the places we visit.
Well said. This has been a fascinating look into the technologies and challenges of living in caves on the moon and Mars. It's incredible how much progress is being made. But now I want to hear from our listener what stood out to you most so far. Is there a specific technology or challenge that you find especially interesting or maybe even concerning?
I'd love to hear what our listener is thinking. It's a topic that really sparks the imagination and makes you think about the future of humanity, our place in the universe, all of that.
We'll have to save that conversation for another time. But for now, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll delve even deeper into the possibilities and challenges of space exploration.
It really is amazing to think how far we've come with space exploration technology. We're almost at the point of turning sci-fi into reality.
It is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And from everything we've talked about, it seems like living in those caves on the moon or Mars, it's not so much a question of if anymore, but more like when. But let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about the people involved.
Yeah.
The challenges of actually living and working in these extreme places, especially for long periods of time. It can't be all, hydroponic gardens and VR escapes, right?
Definitely not. It's really important to understand the huge mental and social challenges that come with these long space missions. Imagine living in a tiny space, far from everyone you know, and constantly knowing how dangerous it is. That's got to have an effect.
It's like being in a constant state of high alert, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So how do we even begin to prepare astronauts for that? Mental resilience, it seems like that would be just as important as physical fitness.
Absolutely, you're right. And that's why those analog missions we mentioned before, those are so crucial. They recreate the isolation and confinement of a Martian mission, but here on Earth, so researchers can study how it affects people psychologically and come up with strategies to, make it better.
So what have we learned from these analog missions? What are some of the key things that help people stay mentally healthy in these extreme environments?
One of the biggest things is building a really strong sense of community among the crew. Having a shared purpose, encouraging open communication, teamwork, all of that is super important for keeping morale communication either.
Oh.
Laser communication would also let us send massive amounts of scientific data back to Earth in a fraction of the time it takes now. We could learn so much more about Mars so much faster.
Wow. It's amazing to think about all the possibilities, considering the long-term consequences.
Exactly. We need to find a balance, being very careful about how we use resources, making sure it's sustainable and responsible.
Construction crews on other planets building entire cities before humans even get there? It does sound like something straight out of a movie. Is that even remotely possible with the technology we have?
Pure science fiction.
And it's not just about getting to a certain place. It's about the journey itself, the challenges we have to overcome, the discoveries we make, all the knowledge we gain along the way. It all shapes how we understand the universe and even ourselves.
That's a really good point. Space exploration, it's not just about planting a flag on another planet and saying, we were here.
Right.
It's about broadening our horizons. We're almost at the point of turning sci-fi into reality.
It is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And from everything we've talked about, it seems like living in those caves on the moon or Mars, it's not so much a question of if anymore, but more like when. But let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about the people involved.
Yeah.
The challenges of actually living and working in these extreme places, especially for long periods of time. It can't be all, hydroponic gardens and VR escapes, right?
Definitely not. It's really important to understand the huge mental and social challenges that come with these long space missions. Imagine living in a tiny space, far from everyone you know, and constantly knowing how dangerous it is. That's got to have an effect.
It's like being in a constant state of high alert, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So how do we even begin to prepare astronauts for that? Mental resilience, it seems like that would be just as important as physical fitness.
Absolutely, you're right. And that's why those analog missions we mentioned before, those are so crucial. They recreate the isolation and confinement of a Martian mission, but here on Earth, so researchers can study how it affects people psychologically and come up with strategies to, make it better.
So what have we learned from these analog missions? What are some of the key things that help people stay mentally healthy in these extreme environments?
One of the biggest things is building a really strong sense of community among the crew. Having a shared purpose, encouraging open communication, teamwork, all of that is super important for keeping morale high and the group cohesive. Think of it like a close family, but living in a high-tech Martian cave. Haha.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
In that kind of challenging environment, having that support system, knowing you're not alone, would be so, so crucial.
Exactly. And it's not just about preventing bad stuff from happening, it's about promoting good stuff too.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Researchers are exploring ways to design the habitats themselves in a way that actually encourages creativity, personal growth, and even a sense of wonder, like really emphasizing that exploration aspect.
So you're talking about creating an environment where astronauts don't just survive, but they actually thrive, they flourish.
Exactly.
I like that. What kind of ideas are they looking into to make that happen?
Well, think about bringing elements of nature into the design, like maybe an indoor garden where astronauts can grow plants, connect with something familiar from Earth, or using virtual reality to create experiences of being outdoors surrounded by natural landscapes.
That's such a cool idea, having a little piece of Earth on Mars. And speaking of Earth, I imagine one of the toughest things would be the communication delay. Knowing that it could take several minutes for a message to reach Earth and come back, that's got to be incredibly frustrating. What are scientists doing to address that?
They're working on something called laser communication. It's pretty amazing. Instead of using radio waves, it transmits data using beams of light.
Laser communication. That sounds like something straight out of Star Trek.
Uh-huh. It kind of is. And what it means is much faster data transfer rates. So those communication delays could be cut way down.
So instead of waiting minutes or even hours for a response, astronauts could have almost real-time conversations with people back home.
Exactly.
That would be huge.
It could really change everything for astronauts' mental well-being, helping them stay connected to life on Earth. And it's not just about personal communication either.
No.
Laser communication would also let us send massive amounts of scientific data back to Earth in a fraction of the time it takes now. We could learn so much more about Mars so much faster.
Wow. It's amazing to think about all the possibilities. But as we push further into space, it's important to remember that it's not without risks. What are we doing to make sure astronauts are safe in these really extreme environments?
Safety is the absolute top priority in every aspect of mission planning and execution. They're developing new spacesuits with advanced life support systems, things like real-time monitoring of vital signs, and even emergency shelters that can be deployed really quickly if a suit gets breached.
Wow, it's like having a mini life support system built right into your suit.
Pretty much.
But what about medical emergencies? It's not like we can just call 911 on Mars.
That's a huge challenge. So astronauts go through very extensive medical training, learning to handle a lot of procedures on their own. And they're also developing telemedicine technologies so astronauts can have real-time consultations with medical experts back on Earth, even from millions of miles away.
That's incredible, the level of thought and preparation that goes into every detail of these missions. It's really amazing. But beyond those physical and logistical challenges, what about the ethical side of exploring other planets? How do we make sure we're being responsible, that we're not causing harm?
You're absolutely right. That's a crucial question. Planetary protection is one of the biggest ethical considerations in space exploration. NASA has really strict rules to prevent contaminating other worlds with Earth-based life, and they're always working on improving those methods to minimize the risk as much as possible.
So it's kind of like a cosmic version of Leave No Trace, but on a much, much bigger scale.
Exactly. We have to explore these worlds with respect and care, making sure our actions don't accidentally mess up these potentially fragile ecosystems. And then there's the question of resources. How do we balance our need for resources with preserving these environments?
Right. It's not like we can just go and start mining Mars without considering the long-term consequences.
Exactly. We need to find a balance, being very careful about how we use resources, making sure it's sustainable and responsible.
There's a lot to think about, but these are really important conversations to be having as we venture further out into space. It's about being aware of our impact and leaving a positive legacy for future generations.
You said it perfectly. Space exploration isn't just about technological advances. It's about deepening our understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe, and doing it all with wisdom and compassion.
That's a great way to put it. I think we've covered a lot of ground today, from the really specific details of things like radiation shielding to the bigger picture of ethical exploration. But before we wrap things up, I'd love to hear from you, our listener. What's been the most surprising or thought-provoking part of our conversation today? What questions are running through your mind as we imagine the future of humanity out there among the stars?
It's really incredible when you think about the scale of what we're talking about here. We're talking about pushing the boundaries of what humans can do and going to places that used to be pure science fiction.
And it's not just about getting to a certain place. It's about the journey itself, the challenges we have to overcome, the discoveries we make, all the knowledge we gain along the way. It all shapes how we understand the universe and even ourselves.
That's a really good point. Space exploration, it's not just about planting a flag on another planet and saying, we were here.
Right.
It's about broadening our horizons, pushing the limits of what humans can achieve, and inspiring people to dream big. Exactly. And speaking of dreaming big, the book we've been talking about, it focused a lot on near-term technologies, stuff we could probably do in the next 10 or 20 years.
Right.
But it also hinted at even bigger possibilities further down the line. Remember we were talking about robots exploring caves and helping build habitats?
Yeah, those robotic pioneers setting things up for when the humans arrive.
Well, imagine taking that concept a step further. What if robots could actually build entire habitats on their own, using materials they find right there on the moon or Mars?
Wow.
Like autonomous robot architects, shaping the landscape and creating these underground oases that are ready for humans to move in.
Whoa, that's some next level stuff. Robot construction crews on other planets building entire cities before humans even get there? It does sound like something straight out of a movie. Is that even remotely possible with the technology we have today?
It might be closer than you think. We're already seeing crazy advancements in 3D printing and autonomous robotics. Combine that with something called in situ resource utilization, which basically means using materials you find right there on site, and the possibilities are pretty mind-blowing.
Okay, I'm trying to picture this. So robots land on Mars, they've got 3D printers and mining tools, they extract resources from the Martian soil, process them, and then use that to 3D print entire structures, layer by layer.
Exactly. These robots would be like self-sufficient construction crews, able to build these complex habitats with hardly any human involvement. It would make it way cheaper and less complicated to establish a human presence on Mars, which would make it more feasible and sustainable in the long run.
It's a pretty amazing vision. And it really makes you realize how far we've come in such a short amount of time. From basic rockets to robotic construction crews on other planets, the speed of innovation is just incredible.
And it's only getting faster. Who knows what amazing breakthroughs are just around the corner? Maybe we'll figure out how to create self-healing structures or bioengineered habitats that can actually grow and adapt to the Martian environment. The possibilities really are endless.
It's both exciting and a little bit daunting to think about all the potential challenges and ethical questions that might come up as we keep exploring further into space. But that's part of what makes it so exciting, right? Pushing the boundaries of what we know, facing the unknown, and always trying to learn more about ourselves and the universe around us.
Absolutely. Exploration is part of who we are as humans. It's what drives us to go beyond what's familiar, to discover new frontiers, and to always question what we think is possible.
I think that's a perfect place to wrap things up. From those radiation blocking suits to robots rappelling into caves and the mind-blowing idea of robots building cities on Mars, this deep dive has given us a glimpse into what human ingenuity can accomplish and the incredible potential of space exploration.
It's been awesome exploring these ideas with you, and I hope everyone listening has enjoyed it too.
Me too. And as always, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never lose that sense of wonder and inspiration that comes from looking beyond our own planet. Who knows what incredible discoveries are waiting for us out there among the stars? Until next time, keep looking up.
אוקיי, יפה. אז ננסה לעשות עוד פרק, ואז אני אלך לעשות אמבטיה, וגם שם אני לומד, שומע הרצאות כרגע של הטכניון, אני עוד מעט מסיים קורס של ח' ו2, ואז אני אנסה להמשיך כאילו בסוף המטרה שלי לעשות את הספר הזה של דיב קארל גראד and all that, אז אני אנסה לעשות אותו יחד איתכם. אז זהו, מה רציתי? לעשות עוד פרק. אז בואו ננסה לעשות עוד פרק. אז אנחנו לא יכולים לעשות את זה מפה. אז אנחנו צריכים לצאת ולהיכנס עוד פעם. יופי. אז בזה אז אנחנו רוצים את פרק 6, Considerations for Cave and Lava Tube Selection. נעשה פרק 6. נעשה generate, ונלך להסתובב קצת, ואחרי זה הוא יכין לנו את מה שביקשנו. יופי. עוד מעט אני בא, אני רק שוטף את אלה ושם אותם בג'קוזי להתייבש. אוקיי, עוד שנייה. שמתי למילוי אמבטיה, ניקיתי אותה, ואז כאילו כל פעם אני מנקה אותה, מאז זה העסק עם הטיולי הפן הזה, למדתי מהם כאילו לנקות קודם את האמבטיה, כי ככה הם עושים עם האונסן הביתי, שלא תהיה בחיידקים של עצמך, וזהו, אז מתחילים. אז אני עובר כאילו שתשמעו אותם ולא אותי. ואני סוג מקטין, וזה אני מעביר לשם, ומשקיט אותי, משתיק אותי.
Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And today we're looking into something that's, I think, really captured a lot of people's imaginations, and that's the idea of using caves and lava tubes as habitats on the moon and Mars.
Yeah.
Pretty wild stuff.
Absolutely. It's definitely something that's moving out of the realm of science fiction and into something we're genuinely considering for future missions.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of us, when we picture, living on the moon or Mars, we kind of have that, that image of a dome habitat or maybe some kind of really sleek futuristic building.
Right.
But, going underground, it's a different approach. Yeah. It's fascinating.
Yeah. And, it's not just about finding a hole in the ground and calling it home, right? There's a lot more to it than that.
Definitely. And And that's what we're going to dive into today.
Exactly. We're going to look at, what makes a good cave. What are the things we need to consider when we're talking about extraterrestrial real estate?
Cosmic real estate. That's a good one. Yeah. So, to get us started, you actually shared a really striking image, from the research you sent me of astronauts at a potential cave entrance. And it's not what I pictured. I was picturing a nice smooth opening,
Right, like a movie set.
Exactly. But this is rubble. It looks dangerous. It's really highlighting the challenges here.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not just about finding a cave. It's about finding one that's accessible and usable. One that we can actually make into a habitat.
Right. It's almost like, taking it back to basics in a way. Thinking about how early humans used caves for shelter, but now we're doing it, with this whole other layer of complexity on top of it.
That's a really interesting point. If you think about it, our ancestors had to consider a lot of the same things we're looking at today.
Yeah.
Shelter from the elements, protection from predators, access to resources. They were making those decisions based on their environment. And we're doing the same thing, but, on the moon and Mars.
Yeah. And with much higher stakes, arguably.
Absolutely. The stakes are definitely higher.
And, you mentioned that concept of early humans using caves.
Yeah.
And it made me think about that 1988 concept for an inflatable lunar base.
Oh, yeah. That's a classic.
Where they were already, grappling with these ideas of radiation shielding, temperature control, even the psychological impact of living in an enclosed environment.
Right. And it's amazing how relevant those considerations still are today.
Yeah. It's like they were really ahead of their time in a lot of ways.
They were thinking about these things before we even had the technology to make it happen.
Right. So, it seems like, we're talking about prime location. We're talking about, access. That's got to be key, right? When you're picking a spot for an extraterrestrial, habitat.
Absolutely. Location is everything. You want to be close to potential resources. You want to minimize travel time for the astronauts.
Yeah.
You need a safe landing zone.
Yeah.
All these factors come into play.
And that's why, missions like the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter and the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter are so important, right?
Yeah, there are scouts out there, mapping the terrain, pinpointing promising candidates from orbit. It's like having a cosmic real estate agent, scoping out properties for us before we even set foot on the surface.
But okay, so let's say, we've got this amazing location. We've found this great spot. But there's still those inherent dangers of space. The radiation micrometeoroids, the temperature swings.
Yeah, Earth starts to look pretty cozy when you think about it like that.
Oh, yeah. Suddenly all the problems here seem very small.
Yeah, we take our atmosphere for granted.
We do. Yeah. We really do. So that's where, the protective qualities of a cave or a lava tube becomes so crucial.
Absolutely. We need to find those natural bunkers that can shield both our explorers and our equipment.
So, okay, what makes a good bunker? Besides being really, really deep underground.
Well, depth definitely helps, but it's more nuanced than that. It's not just about how far down you go. It's about the type of radiation we're dealing with.
Right.
The composition of the cave walls. Are there any openings or cracks that could compromise the shielding,
Right.
There's a lot to consider.
It's a whole other level of, home inspection that we're not used to.
Exactly.
So are there any, real world examples on Earth that kind of give us clues about, how well these caves can protect us?
Yeah, actually, there's a really fascinating cave here on Earth called Lichiguya Cave.
Okay.
And it's incredible. It's been isolated from the surface for millions of years.
Wow.
And it's pristine. Studying its environment gives us really valuable insights into how similar formations on the moon and Mars might behave.
So it's like a time capsule. But instead of, historical artifacts, we're finding clues about our future in space.
Exactly. It's like a window into a different world.
That's amazing. Okay, so we've talked about location. We've talked about shielding, this idea of a cave as a shelter. What about the actual size of these potential habitats?
Right.
Are we talking like, cozy caverns, or are we talking about like sprawling underground cities?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because the lower gravity on the moon and Mars means that caves could be absolutely enormous compared to those on Earth. Imagine caverns stretching for kilometers.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a whole different scale than what I was picturing.
Right. It's not your typical, basement dwelling.
Definitely not. So, wouldn't navigating a space that vast be a challenge?
Absolutely. Especially we're talking about those large inflatable habitats like the Bigelow B330.
Right.
You can't just stuff a giant inflatable module into a tiny crevice.
Right. It's like you're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, but, on a cosmic scale.
Exactly. And that's where finding a cave entrance that's accessible both for humans and large equipment is crucial.
So, are there research projects that are tackling these challenges?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The ILC XHAB Lunar Habitat at Langley Research Center is a great example.
Oh.
They're testing out inflatable habitat technologies, refining the designs, working out the kinks before we send them to space.
That's really cool. And speaking of essential resources, imagine finding a cave or a lava tube that has its own water ice supply.
Oh, yeah, that would be the ultimate find.
Right.
Talk about a game changer.
You wouldn't have to haul it up from Earth.
Right.
You could use it for drinking water, for growing food, even for generating rocket fuel.
Absolutely. The possibilities are endless.
And the best part is we're actually finding evidence of water ice in some of these caves.
We are especially near the lunar poles and in certain regions of Mars. Those visuals you sent me, the water ice map of the moon.
Oh, yeah, those are incredible.
The image of subsurface water ice on Mars.
Yeah.
Those are prime targets for future exploration.
Those are just mind-blowing. It's to think that those patches on the map could be our future water supply.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even hold clues to extraterrestrial life. It's incredible.
It really is. And, that brings us to another crucial aspect of cave selection, planetary protection.
Oh, right.
We need to make sure we don't contaminate these environments, especially if they might harbor life.
Right. We can't just go, waltzing in there with our dirty boots.
Exactly. It's like being a guest in someone else's home, Right. You got to be respectful.
Exactly. Except the homeowner might be a microscopic Martian.
That's right. So how do we explore these caves responsibly?
Right.
That's where the International COSPAR guidelines come in.
Okay.
They provide this framework for planetary protection, particularly for missions to Mars.
Right.
And NASA adheres to these guidelines very rigorously to minimize the risk of contamination.
So we're talking about, very careful protocols for sterilizing equipment, handling samples, even the movements of the astronauts within the cave.
Absolutely. Every step of the way. We need to minimize our footprint and ensure that our search for life doesn't accidentally destroy the very thing we're looking for.
Right. It's that delicate balance, between exploration and preservation.
Exactly.
But let's rewind a bit. We've talked about location shielding, resources, size, but how do we actually go about choosing the one?
Right.
From all these potential candidates?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it?
It is. It's like, trying to pick the perfect apartment.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of worrying about, square footage and closet space, we're thinking about radiation shielding and water ice deposits.
Yeah, it's a whole different set of criteria.
It really is. So how do we even begin to narrow it down?
Well, thankfully, we're not starting from scratch. You know, those orbital missions we talked about. The Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter,
Yeah.
they're already giving us a wealth of information. There are eyes in the sky.
Yeah.
Identifying potential cave openings, giving us that first glimpse of what might lie beneath the surface.
Well, it's like, you know, they're doing the initial scouting for us. They're pointing us in the right direction.
Exactly. And then once we have those initial targets, we can send in the robotic scouts, you know, rovers equipped with specialized sensors to really get up close and personal with these caves.
Okay.
They can create 3D maps, analyze the composition of the cave walls.
Wow.
Even search for signs of water ice.
So they're like our, you know, our advanced team.
Yeah.
They're going in there and reporting back.
Exactly, doing the reconnaissance work before we send in the humans.
So, I mean, what kind of data are we looking for, you know, to really help us make that decision?
Well, we need to consider a whole range of factors.
Right.
You know, the size and shape of the cave, the thickness of the overlying rock. We're looking for that balance between habitability and accessibility. A cave that's large enough to accommodate our needs, but also easy to reach and navigate.
It's going to be Goldilocks. Not too big, not too small, just right.
Exactly, the Goldilocks cave.
With all the amenities.
That's right.
Okay, so what about safety? I mean, how do we ensure that the cave we pick isn't gonna, you know, collapse on our heads?
Right. That's a crucial consideration.
Yeah.
We need to carefully assess the structural integrity of the cave. You know, look for any signs of instability.
Okay.
Potential hazards.
Yeah.
Robotic probes can use ground-penetrating radar and other techniques to kind of create this detailed picture of the cave's geology and help us identify any areas of concern.
So it's like giving the cave a thorough home inspection before we move in.
It's such a great analogy.
But even with all that data, you know, I mean, it's got to be so hard to choose.
It is. It's an incredibly difficult decision.
Yeah.
You know, it's like trying to pick your favorite star in the night sky.
Right.
There are so many to choose from.
So how do you do it?
Ultimately, the decision comes down to a careful balancing act
Okay.
between the scientific objectives, the mission constraints,
Right.
and the level of risk that we're willing to accept.
Yeah.
It's a team effort
Right.
involving experts from various disciplines all working together to make the best possible choice for humanity's future in space.
It's a testament to human collaboration.
It is.
You know, this idea that we can bring together these brilliant minds, you know, scientists, engineers, explorers, and really tackle these complex problems and push the boundaries of what's possible.
It's truly inspiring.
It is. And, you know, this whole concept of living in caves on other planets,
Right.
it might sound like science fiction,
Right.
but it's quickly becoming our reality.
It is. And it makes you wonder what's next, you know?
Yeah. What other seemingly impossible dreams will we make possible in the coming decades?
That's the exciting part.
Yeah.
You know, the future of space exploration is wide open.
It is. And for our listeners who are eager to learn more about this fascinating world of caves and lava tubes, the Lava Tube database at Arizona State University is a fantastic resource.
Yeah, it's a treasure trove of information
It really is.
on the subterranean realms,
Yeah.
both here on Earth and on other worlds.
So until next time, keep looking up, keep exploring, and keep those
Wide open.
in the coming decades.
That's the exciting part.
Yeah.
You know, the future of space exploration is wide open.
It is. And for our listeners who are eager to learn more about this fascinating world of caves and lava tubes, the Lava Tube database at Arizona State University is is a fantastic resource.
Yeah, it's a treasure trove of information.
It really is.
On these subterranean realms, both here on Earth and on other worlds.
So until next time, keep looking up, keep exploring, and keep those imaginations soaring. This is the Deep Dive signing off.
See ya. Yeah, it's a huge responsibility, you know, and thinking about that responsibility, it also makes you realize just how challenging it's going to be to actually build and maintain these habitats, you know?
Right.
Talking about creating life support systems, power generation, waste management, you know, all in an incredibly harsh and unforgiving environment.
Yeah, it's like building a city from scratch, but with the added complication of being millions of miles away from Earth.
Oh, exactly.
It makes you appreciate all the infrastructure we take for granted here.
It really does. But, you know, luckily we have some incredibly talented engineers and scientists working on these challenges.
Yeah.
You know? And NASA's different centers, you know, each with their own areas of expertise, are really collaborating to bring this vision to life.
So it's like a huge team effort.
Absolutely it is.
So, I mean, who are some of the key players in this cosmic construction project?
Well, the Johnson Space Center, for example, is really leading the charge on developing advanced spacesuits and life support systems.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
Those are absolutely essential for exploring and working in these challenging environments.
Yeah, I can picture those next generation spacesuits equipped with all sorts of high-tech gadgets and gizmos.
Yeah, like a Swiss Army knife for space explorers.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we have the Goddard Space Flight Center, you know, with their expertise in robotics and sensor technology.
Why?
Imagine swarms of robotic rovers venturing into these caves, you know, mapping the terrain, collecting samples, even preparing the site for habitat construction.
Wow. So it's like having a team of robotic assistants, you know, taking care of the heavy lifting and the dangerous tasks so the human explorers can focus on the science.
Precisely. And let's not forget about the Langley Research Center. You know, they're known for their expertise in inflatable habitats and lightweight materials.
Right.
These are the folks who are really pushing the boundaries of what's possible, you know, in terms of creating comfortable and functional living spaces in space.
Right. Those inflatable habitats are like, you know, futuristic camping tents, but way cooler.
Exactly.
And it's fantastic that NASA is collaborating with universities and research institutions as well. You know, it's like pooling all the best brains together to solve these complex challenges.
It's essential. I mean, we need all the expertise we can get.
Yeah. So, I mean, who are some of the university partners that are really playing a key role?
Well, universities like Arizona State University are leading the way in understanding lava tubes and cave environments. You know, their lava tube database is an incredible resource.
Yeah.
For researching potential habitat sites, it's almost like a cosmic Zillow for caves, you know?
So you can browse through listings and find a cave with just the right amount of radiation shielding and square footage.
Exactly. You can filter by amenities, you know?
I love it.
Water ice proximity.
That's great. And what about robotics? I mean, I know there are some universities that are really strong in that area.
Yeah, Carnegie Mellon University is a big player in that space. You know, they're known for their expertise in robotics, particularly those designed for, you know, hazardous and challenging environments.
Yeah.
So they're developing the robots that will actually assist astronauts in exploring and preparing these caves, you know, acting as their eyes and ears in these uncharted territories.
That's a perfect partnership. You know, the best minds in robotics working alongside, you know, the pioneers of space exploration.
Absolutely. And it's not just a national effort either. You know, space exploration is a global endeavor, and we're seeing incredible contributions from other space agencies as well.
So who else is involved, on the international stage?
Well, the European Space Agency is also heavily involved in cave research and astronaut training.
Okay.
Their KVs program is a fantastic example, They actually send astronauts deep into underground caverns here on Earth to simulate the challenges of space exploration, from communication limitations to team dynamics in isolated environments.
I've heard about that program. It's like a boot camp for space explorers.
It is.
But instead of obstacle courses and push-ups, they're navigating these dark, winding tunnels.
Exactly.
And conducting scientific experiments in a truly alien environment.
It's an incredibly valuable experience. It helps prepare them for both the physical and the psychological demands of living and working in isolation.
Right. And speaking of, cutting edge technology.
Underground caverns here on Earth. And it's not just a national effort either. Space exploration is a global endeavor, and we're seeing incredible contributions from other space agencies as well.
So who else is involved, on the international stage?
Well, the European Space Agency is also heavily involved in cave research and astronaut training.
Okay.
Their KVs program is a fantastic example, And we're seeing incredible contributions from other space agencies as well.
So who else is involved, on the international stage?
Well, the European Space Agency is also heavily involved in cave research and astronaut training.
Okay.
Their KVs program is a fantastic example, you know, they actually send astronauts deep into underground caverns here on Earth to simulate the challenges of space exploration, you know, from communication limitations to team dynamics in isolated environments.
I've heard about that program. It's like a boot camp for space explorers.
It is.
But instead of obstacle courses and push-ups, they're, you know, navigating these dark, winding tunnels.
Exactly.
And conducting scientific experiments in a truly alien environment.
It's an incredibly valuable experience. You know, it helps prepare them for both the physical and the psychological demands of living and working in isolation.
Right, right. And speaking of, you know, cutting edge technology, we can't forget about the material science advancements.
Oh, absolutely.
That are really making these habitats possible, you know?
Yeah.
Remember those super hydrogenated BNNTs we talked about earlier?
Oh, yeah. Those are fascinating.
They're tiny nanotubes that sound like something straight out of a science fiction novel.
They do, don't they?
Remind me what makes them so special.
Well, these super hydrogenated boron nitride nanotubes are incredibly effective at absorbing radiation. Okay. They're lightweight, incredibly strong, and could be a real game changer for protecting astronauts and equipment from harmful cosmic rays.
So we're talking about essentially creating like a personal force field for each astronaut.
Yeah, it's pretty close to that, you know?
That's amazing.
And the applications go beyond just spacesuits and habitats.
Right.
We could use these materials to shield spacecraft rovers.
Right.
Even the equipment used for in situ resource utilization.
Right, protecting all our precious gear from the harsh realities of space.
Exactly.
And speaking of ISRU, let's talk about, you know, the technologies that will allow us to live off the land, so to speak, and reduce our reliance on Earth-based supplies.
Yeah, ISRU is absolutely essential for establishing a sustainable presence on the moon and Mars.
Okay.
And luckily, we're seeing some really exciting developments in this area.
Like what?
Well, for example, there's ongoing research into extracting water ice from lunar and Martian regolith. You know, remember those potential water ice reserves we discussed?
Oh yeah, those frozen oases hidden beneath the surface.
Exactly. We're developing the tools and techniques to access and utilize that water ice.
Okay.
Turning those frozen reserves into a lifeline for our lunar and Martian outposts.
So we're talking about cosmic water mining.
Yeah, it's kind of like
turning ice into, drinking water, oxygen, even rocket fuel. It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It's becoming less sci-fi and more reality every day, and it's not just about water.
Right.
There's also research into extracting oxygen from the Martian atmosphere using technologies like Xi, which was successfully tested on the Perseverance rover.
Turning thin Martian air into breathable oxygen. That's mind-blowing.
It is, and I bet 3D printing is playing a major role as well.
Oh, of course.
Right, building structures and tools on demand using local materials.
It's like having a cosmic construction crew that can build anything we need right on site.
Exactly. That's the beauty of 3D printing.
Wow. It's like a giant cosmic Lego set. But instead of plastic bricks, we're using materials from other planets.
Right.
What's next 3D printed pizza?
Maybe someday, but for now,
Okay.
let's focus on the more practical applications like power generation and storage.
Right. We need to keep the lights on.
Exactly. We need reliable energy sources to power all these systems and technologies.
Okay. So what are our options, for powering these lunar and Martian outposts?
Well, solar power is a strong contender,
Oh.
especially for the moon where there's plenty of sunlight.
Right.
But we're also exploring nuclear power options,
Okay.
particularly for Mars, where dust storms can block out the sun for extended periods.
So we're talking about, solar panels soaking up the lunar rays and nuclear reactors humming away on the Martian surface.
Mm-hmm.
It's like building a miniature power grid for another world.
It is. And let's not forget about the communication technologies that will keep us connected to Earth.
Oh, right.
We need reliable, high bandwidth communication systems to send data, images, even video back home,
Right.
sharing our discoveries and keeping in touch with mission control.
We don't want to be sending smoke signals from Mars.
We don't.
So how do we bridge that communication gap, across millions of miles of space?
That's where advancements in laser communication come in.
Okay.
They offer significantly higher data rates compared to traditional radio waves,
Okay.
allowing us to transmit vast amounts of information in a fraction of the time.
So we're talking about beaming laser beams across the vast expanse of space,
We are.
transmitting terabytes of data in the blink of an eye. It sounds like something straight out of Star Wars.
It does, doesn't it? But it's a reality we're rapidly approaching.
It's incredible.
And it really highlights how far we've come in terms of space technology.
Right.
What was once science fiction is quickly becoming science fact.
Yeah, it's a truly exciting time to be alive.
Yeah.
To witness this incredible leap forward in human ingenuity and our exploration of the cosmos, with all these incredible technologies at our disposal. It feels like we're really on the cusp of a new era of space exploration, one where we're not just visiting other worlds, but establishing a permanent foothold among the stars.
It does feel that way, doesn't it? And as we continue to refine these technologies, our understanding of lunar and Martian caves will also deepen.
Right.
We'll be able to explore them more thoroughly, assess their potential more accurately, and ultimately unlock their secrets.
It's a journey of discovery, both in terms of, physically exploring these caves, but also in the technological advancements that make it all possible.
Absolutely. It's a two-way street.
But with all this talk about technology, we can't lose sight of the human element.
Right.
The bravery and ingenuity of the explorers who will actually venture into these uncharted territories.
Yeah, those are the true pioneers.
Yeah, it really is awe-inspiring, to think about taking those first steps into a Martian cave. That feeling of venturing into the unknown. It reminds me of those classic explorers, charting new territories here on Earth. But instead of uncharted oceans or, dense jungles, we're talking about the alien landscapes of other worlds.
And just like those early explorers, we're going to need the right tools and technologies to succeed.
Right.
We've talked about the shelters, the resources, but what about the actual process of selecting a specific cave?
Right.
How do we narrow it down from all those potential candidates that we're mapping?
Yeah, it's almost like trying to pick the perfect apartment, but instead of, worrying about square footage and closet space, we're thinking about radiation shielding and water ice deposits.
Exactly. A unique set of criteria.
It is.
But thankfully, we're not starting from scratch. This orbital missions we mentioned earlier, like the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter and the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter.
Right.
They're already giving us a wealth of information. Okay. There are eyes in the sky identifying potential cave openings and giving us that first glimpse of what might lie beneath the surface.
So they're like our cosmic real estate agents.
Wow.
They're pointing us in the right direction.
Exactly.
But I imagine we need more than just a satellite view to make a decision this important.
You're absolutely right. Once we have those initial targets, we can send in robotic scouts, like rovers equipped with specialized sensors to get up close and personal with these caves.
Okay.
They can create 3D maps, analyze the composition of the cave walls, even search for signs of water ice.
So it's like sending in a team of robotic spelunkers to do the initial exploration and report back their findings.
Exactly.
So what kind of data are we looking for to really help us make that final decision?
Well, we need to consider a whole range of factors, from the size and shape of the cave to the thickness of the overlying rock,
Yeah.
We're looking for that balance between habitability and accessibility. A cave that's large enough to accommodate our needs, but also easy to reach and navigate.
It's got to be Goldilocks. Not too big, not too small.
That's right.
With all the amenities.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about safety? I mean, how do we ensure that, the cave we pick isn't going to collapse on our heads?
Right. Well, that's a crucial consideration.
Yeah.
We need to carefully assess the structural integrity of the cave.
Right.
Looking for any signs of instability or potential hazards.
Okay.
Robotic probes can use ground-penetrating radar and other techniques to kind of create this detailed picture of the cave's geology and help us identify any areas of concern.
So it's like giving the cave a thorough home inspection before we move in.
Exactly.
But even with all this data, it must be so hard to choose from all these potential options. It's like trying to pick your favorite star in the night sky.
It is a daunting task for sure. Ultimately, the decision comes down to a careful balancing act.
Right.
Between the scientific objectives, the mission constraints, and the level of risk that we're willing to accept. Yeah.
It's a team effort involving experts from various disciplines.
Right.
All working together to make the best possible choice for humanity's future in space.
It's a testament to human collaboration, this idea that we can bring together, these scientists, these engineers, these explorers to solve these incredibly complex problems and push the boundaries of what's possible. And this whole concept of living in caves on other planets, it might sound like something straight out of a science fiction novel,
right?
But it's quickly becoming our reality.
It is. And it makes you wonder, what's next?
What other seemingly impossible dreams will we make possible in the coming decades?
It's an exciting time to be alive, to witness this incredible expansion of human ingenuity and our exploration of the cosmos.
It really is. And as we continue to explore these new frontiers, who knows what wonders we'll uncover, what secrets we'll unlock, what new possibilities will emerge.
The possibilities are endless. They really are. And for our listeners who are eager to learn more about this fascinating world of caves and lava tubes, the Lava Tube database at Arizona State University is a fantastic resource.
Yeah, it's a great place to start your own deep dive into these subterranean realms.
It really is. So until next time,
keep
looking up, keep exploring, and keep those imaginations soaring. This is The Deep Dive signing off.
טוב, יפה. אז החצי השני הוא תמיד מין חזרה כזאת, אבל לפעמים זורקים קצת דברים, זה כמו מאחורי הקלעים שהם דברים שהם זרקו על הרצפת עריכה ולא בחרו בהם, יחד עם עוד הרבה שידור חוזר של החלק הראשון. אבל בסדר, אז כאילו זה סתם, כשיש לי כוח אז אני מקשיב גם לזה. אז זהו, אז אני שמרתי לי פה בצד כל מיני, גם הורדתי סרט, משהו שזה באיטלקית אחור, אלבוקו, משהו כזה, בסדר, הוא סיים להוריד, אני פשוט לא רוצה לפגוע בזכויות יוצרים, אז אני לא אנגן אותו עכשיו, אבל כאילו... לא, זה לא זה. בואו נכתוב 2021. הנה, אלבוקו. אבל שוב, אני לא חושב שזה לעניין שאני כאילו אנגן אותו תוך כדי שידור, אבל יש את הסרט הזה שאני רואה, יש את סנקטום שהוא מאוד מומלץ, אבל כבר ראיתי אותו, אולי אני אוריד אותו בתלת ממד, בוא נראה אם יש. סנקטום. אני אכתוב סנקטום 3 ממדים. יש אותו פה בתלת ממד, שזה מאוד מגניב. אז אני אראה את זה, אני אוריד את זה ויראה את זה. פה, את זה אני לא חושב שאני אוכל כאילו לצפות בזה. זה יותר מדי לטלוויזיה שלי, אבל זה אני חושב שכן. בואו נראה. זה שיש פה קולות של כאילו זה דיבוב, אז אני מקווה שזה לא רק מדובב. טוב, נוריד ונראה מקסימום לא טוב, לא כסף. אז אני אומר thanks ואני מוריד. בסדר? אז זהו, אז עכשיו כמה זמן עשינו? 3.5 שעות. זה לא הכל היה עבודה, אבל חלק היה, עשינו דברים מועילים. ועכשיו אני אלך לאמבטיה ויעשה כאילו, אני צופה בהרצאות של הטכניון, אמרתי לכם שעכשיו של חדווה 2 עוד מעט אני מסיים. ואחרי זה אני אנסה כאילו להמשיך עם זה, אמרתי לכם כבר, עם הספר דיב גרד קרל and all that. זאת אומרת, זה הספר. אז זה. בסדר? אז זהו. זה מה שאנשים קנו יחד איתו, בואו נראה מה... זה מגניב מייק, וכל מיני דברים שאתה יכול לעשות, ליצור, בטח במדפסת תלת ממד או משהו. מגניב. בואו נראה אם יש את זה להורדה. יש make geometry, make trigonometry, איזה מגניב. וואו. מגניב. בואו נראה. בואו נראה אם יש גם את האחרים. הנה, יש את כל השלושה. מה, איזה דברים מגניבים. כל יום מגלים עוד דברים מגניבים. טוב, אז יופי. אז אני אוריד לי את הטריגונומטריה בזמן שאני באמבטיה, וגם את הסרט, כן, גם את סנקטום, שהוא הולך ומוריד, 39 מגה לשנייה, עוד 2 דקות זה יסיים. זה יופי. אני אכין לי בינתיים את הטלפון, שאיתו אני רואה את ההרצאות. הכנתי לי תה, שאני לא אתייבש שם, זה סגור שלא יישפך. ואת אלה שהרוזים גם בנפרד, אז זה טוב, עד חצות. הנה, זה החצובה שלי שאני מצמיד לשפה של האמבטיה. וזה יושב ככה ואני שומע הרצאות. צופה בהרצאות, כי זה ויזואלי. חבל שאין יותר זמן, אבל עם הזמן שיש נעשה כמה שאפשר. בואו ניתן לזה לסיים. יופי, מגניב. מגניב. ונשים להורדה את הדבר הזה. שנתחיל עם טריגונומטריה. מגניב. מתי זה יצא הדבר הזה? 2023, זהו, אני לא מכיר את זה, זה חדש. 2023 וזה 2022, 2021, זה יצא כנראה כל אלה ב-2021, 2022, 2023. מהשנים האחרונות, בכל אופן. אז זהו, אז אני אתן לזה לרוץ. אז זהו, אז תודה רבה, וביי להתראות. תודה רבה.